It's time for the Voice of Reason podcast. Here are your hosts, Sean Phillips, Andy Van Beber, and Travis Kirkendall.
And ladies and gentlemen, we are live. It is Tuesday, August 22nd. The great year is 2023. Yes, we have made it this far. My name is the poor man south of Richmond. And as always, I am joined alongside my two co-hosts, Mr. Andy Van Beber and Travis Kirkendall. Gentlemen, how are we doing on this lovely Tuesday evening?
I just feel self-conscious talking to a panda right now. I'm not going to lie. I got to bring Travis on camera here, but Sean.
I don't have any cool face over like that.
No, I have the thing mixed up, but that's okay. Sean, I am feeling self-conscious though. I just talking to a panda, but doing dad, we understand.
Good.
You're dad, and that's okay.
Yes, I am panda dad at the moment, so I am. I've got to shuffle a couple of things since we're a little bit early today, which is good because that means that we get to bedtime at the right time.
I was going to say bedtime
makes it easier for everybody. Yeah,
bedtime is the good time.
Oh, it's the best because then once bedtime happens for them, I follow suit about 20 minutes after. So no complaints.
Well, I got up early this morning for the first day of school, and it was that was the challenge, boys. I want to tell you something. Getting back into that routine. You guys are regular working men. I'm a guy who pretends to work and goes to work at a I get that whole, June, July, August thing going on, and then, but no, today.
Back to reality.
Back to reality. Yeah. I'll tell you what, though, it was a good start to the school year, and we had a good first day. Good first day. So.
Awesome.
I don't want to kind of step cross the line just because I not too much information needs to go out, but how was the reaction of students? Kind of what was the vibe of? I know that our neck of the woods, that area has experienced a lot of hardship over the summer, and some recent hardship too. So how are the kids and staff? Everyone doing okay?
I will say that the young man who passed away 3 weeks ago was a fifth grader, and with those guys and how they were doing it was a mixed bag. It really was a mixed bag. And I felt for those guys. They're doing better because they had that time between between that funeral and his school starting. And I am going to go ahead and mention this. I'm sorry, guys, I didn't tell you ahead of time, but so we are going to be partially helping sponsor. So there will be a memorial disc golf tournament for those of you in the Pike County area, October 21st. Mark it on your calendar at the YMCA in Louisiana, Missouri. They set up a scholarship in this young man's name. Once the Y gets the flyer out and everything, I'm going to be posting it on our website. If you can't come, you want to purchase a T-shirt. The T-shirts will be available. Everything 100% goes towards this young man, the memorial scholarship, and if this becomes a regular thing, which the YMCA said, hey, this sounds like something that's going to be pretty viable, and so just mark it on your calendar for the 21st of October, and it's going to be what they call a flex tee time. Anytime between 9 and 3, you can come out and play your 18 holes, and we'll keep a stacked leaderboard. But it really goes to a good cause, and this is co-sponsored by the YMCA and the Clopton Fellowship of Christian Athletes. So please mark that on your calendar, and we're really excited about that. That was it.
It's awesome. I'm glad we're part of that.
Yeah, that sounds like in hardship, it's always nice when there are kind of a silver lining, good things to come from it. And this sounds like something that will be good for the community and good to help the family heal. So that's good. I'm glad everyone is unfortunately doing as well as one can do in
in
these
the
kind of
situation,
situations.
right? Yeah,
But
in the situation.
yeah,
So how was the weekend for you fellas? Travis, it looked like you made some Wisconsin run this weekend.
Yeah, we went up to the lake, same place we usually take Lupo. It's less than an hour from here. And
Lupo looked like he got his
Saturday,
Lupo got his workout,
huh?
didn't he? Lupo got his workout, didn't he?
Oh yeah, he loves it. He loves going to the lake,
That's
man.
good. That's good.
Saturday we were working on the house still, and then we haven't really been out, and summer's dwindling down. So we're like, it's gonna be a nice weekend. Let's take him up there and have a good day, and we did.
Well,
And it was a lot of fun.
if you
And
feel like it's dwindling down, just come down here into, north.
oh, it's hot. No, yeah, it's the hot months. We're like
Oh,
getting towards the end of summer, and this is like super hot right now
yeah,
for us.
this
So
is it. This is it. I don't know how y'all are in the rest of the country and how all of our German fans are doing over there in Germany and everything, but
tomorrow and Thursday is about to be brutal.
yeah,
But
tomorrow, Thursday, they said the heat index is going to be 118, projected heat index of 118, and so that's like somewhere between Sean's ball sack and a witch's boob, somewhere in that temperature range, I believe, is where that's at. So
yeah.
nothing. See, I love the panic because see that way I don't get a response, so that's good.
well, yeah, yeah, no, on our end, I was very grateful for all the texts and messages that we got from people checking in on us. As a quick little pit stop, just down the street, it kind of affected. We mostly got rain. There were a lot of confused Californians because they experienced humidity for the first time in a long time. So there was a lot of like, why are we sticky? But no, Saturday we also kind of went out and did some activities. We went to a new state park. Did
Yeah, the
some
hiking.
beautiful hiking.
Yeah, I saw that. That's nice.
It was nice, but one of the other really cool parts about it was at this park on weekends. They have a polo field, not water polo, but actual polo.
Really?
So people, on horses, whacking sticks and whacking balls, and it's pretty popular out there. There was actually families and people in the crowd in the stands, and it's free to go watch.
What did Jam think of that?
Part of our Saturday. She loved it. She liked seeing the horses. She had fun on the hikes. She, all kinds of rocks, and almost drove me crazy a couple times. Stopping to pick up rocks and wanting to put them in pockets, but it was all good. So the hike was fun. We were going to go to a soccer game, which has also kind of become a tradition in our house on Sunday, but the rain kind of canceled that. But Saturday, there's another game that we have tickets for Saturday. So I think, in the morning, we're going to do the hike, maybe watch some polo, do a power nap, and then go catch some soccer at Dignity.
LA Galaxy, right?
We are Galaxy fans. Yes, there is LAFC, the team that is the good LA team. However, thanks to VetTix, we get free Galaxy tickets just because they're kind of shitty. So they never sell out, but it's fun for us because then we get to go to the games and then we get heartbroken by the end of the night because they always lose. But no, it's
that's good though.
The park is nice. The fans that are fans of any bad sports teams are diehards. So the people in the crowd are really into it, and Jam enjoys it. Tony enjoys it. So it's been. We've gone to a couple, and now it's kind of something that we're going to do regularly, and it's really, really nice and enjoyable.
Good. Well, boys, tonight I called tonight's episode The Boiler Room. We're going to try to go through, we may get through 2, we may get through 3 issues tonight. There's a lot of stuff. We're already gearing up for our show next week, so that'll be a lot of fun. But tonight, I'll just start with the survey question. Today's survey question, we had quite a response to it. What impact do you think religion has on a society? 46% said a lot. That surprised me that 46% said a lot. 15% said a mild or a mid effect. 2% said none. And 30%, again, thank you to our friend Martin Hanley, who always comes up with the nice, creative, extra answers, said in between, not a lot, or mild. Okay, so, and the reason why I asked this, Travis, like I said, we've said this many times. We have a gazillion. If you looked at our group chat during the week, we're just posting back and forth and posting stuff and everything. And Travis posted this on Friday or Saturday. And this is this is actually something that Frank Zappa, and again, this is probably dating a lot of you guys. Frank Zappa was, I don't know, what's the best way to describe it? He's like he's what? I can't hear, Travis, I don't know why I can't
Sorry,
hear.
I was muted.
Oh, that's okay.
Sorry. He was a musician. I know that.
Well,
much.
I know, but
I did a little bit of
can't
research on him after.
He's kind of hard to classify as what type of musician he was. I mean, not really punk. Not. It was a different style. His different style of music. Let's just put it that way. And so he was on the show that he was on was a show that used to be on PBS called Firing Line. And that's how much of a nerd that I am that I actually know this because it was on PBS. And so this was Frank Zappa in 1986. And then I'm sure we'll make a few folks mad with this. But let's go ahead and play. Let me just play this clip and then we will talk about it.
I'm going to give you a civics lesson here, but I'll tell you one thing. We must not see eye to eye on the idea of a government that must forbid things in order to protect
What is the
families.
government's role? You've told me several times what it shouldn't do.
How about national defense?
Yeah, I consider this national defense, pal. Our families are under attack from people like you with these lyrics.
John, you don't have to buy them.
Mr. Zappa, could I make a statement about national defense?
Yeah.
The biggest threat to America today is not communism. It's moving America toward a fascist theocracy. And everything that's happened during the Reagan administration is steering us right down that pipe.
Oh, Mr. Zappa, you're not really serious if you're saying we're going toward a fascist theocracy.
That's right, we are. When you have a government that prefers a certain moral code derived from a certain religion, and that moral code turns into legislation to suit one certain religious point of view, and if that code happens to be very, very right-wing, almost toward Attila the Hun...
Well, then you are an anarchist. Every form of civil government is based on some kind of morality, Frank.
Morality in terms of behavior, not in terms of theology. I'm not going to give you a...
So that was 1986. Okay, that's the heart. I mean, you're getting close to the peak of the Cold War. Okay, and at the time Reagan was president, we had a very and I think Frank Zappa was going a little bit overboard in how he described Reagan. A lot of people were upset with Reagan, but I think in today's terms, you would probably consider Frank Zappa to probably be mid-liberal, okay? But one of the things that, and I'll give my 2 cents first, and then I'll let you guys come in. When Frank,
can you explain? Because I know you were back, you were alive when the Reagan administration was around. Can you kind of explain when or the policies he may be referring to?
Yeah. So one of the things.
Okay.
So in 1984, and I think we had this discussion last season, a group that was basically a conservative organization that was formed by then televangelist Jerry Falwell, and then the guys who founded Liberty University started this basically religious right movement. I forgot I don't know if it was the religious right was the name of it, but basically what it was. It was the movement by the religious right because it's kind of a knee-jerk. It was kind of a knee-jerk reaction to a lot of, for example, Roe v. Wade. I mean, you have to look at what had happened in 1974 with the passage of Roe v. Wade. During the 80s, you saw a decline in basically what they called quote-unquote moral values. And Ronald Reagan had made a lot of attempts to basically reestablished the idea of the solidarity of a home, led by a the traditional family of the strong male. And this is also during the hype of the equal rights movement. Okay, the equal rights movement, the Equal Rights Amendment, which was proposed in 1970 something, had been you need 38 states to pass an amendment. So this was at the time we have 27 amendments now, but this was at the time the proposed 27th amendment. There was also you have Roe v. Wade, you have equal rights movement. You have people like Betty Friedan, who was the head of the National Organization of Women, who was pushing this whole feminist movement. And so the religious right comes out, and the religious right was created in 1979. And so they pretty much, Reagan was no idiot. Reagan pretty much jumped in bed with the religious right and got the religious right kind of, and talk about history repeating itself, kind of like what Trump did today in 2016. Reagan taps into this whole conservatism movement with the religious right, finds out that he can get a voter base, and so he starts loosely talking about stuff like abortion, like family issues, and then the Nancy Reagan, did the Just Say No to Drugs. Well, I mean, Frank Zappa was from the beginning legalization of marijuana guy. Okay, and so this whole attack on, his whole statement was, and again in 1986, you're forcing a set of beliefs on the American populace, and it's when he used the term. Basically a fascist theocracy. What he was saying was that you're trying to push this, and the term I've used before is Christian nationalist state on the people. Okay, and I have you guys, my faith and my religion and my belief. I find myself to I am a Christian. I am a Christ follower. I want to share with as many people as I possibly can. I make my views public. But one of the things that cannot be done is, and I think I said this in our group podcast, in our group chat, you cannot legislate morality. Okay? And some of the stuff, like I said, Reagan, some of the stuff that he pushed for, was... He'd made a lot of people mad. I mean, the comments that he made about Roe v. Wade, there was no such thing, about, of that women, women were kind of the whole second class thing, and equal rights for women was considered. Oh, I mean, the '80s man was, misogyny in the '80s was paramount, and women were second-class citizens, in my opinion. From what I grew up and what I saw, the woman's place was in the home, and any kind of movement past that was, that's my, that goes against our moral values. Women should be,
Wasn't Reagan the one that also said that if women want equal rights, they can also get equal lefts, and then punched Nancy Reagan in the mouth right after that?
I am not sure about that one.
I'm pretty sure, yeah, he was the one that said if women want equal rights, they can have equal lefts, and then just hit her with a solid jab.
Oh man! So one of the things
you got to send that video if you.
Yeah.
There was
that's always one of the like on Twitter or whatever, I'll always see like
well,
hey, if women want equal rights, they gotta have equal lefts too. So, yeah.
And
it's anytime like you watch a fight video, it's like where it was some like junior or senior in high school girl, she's beating the shit out of some like freshman that hasn't hit puberty yet, and it's like, hey, rights and lefts, you know what I'm saying? Well, I'm pretty sure Reagan said that first.
So let me just, I guess the best way to, so this is, I found this is an archived article from 1983. Reagan gave a speech in Orlando, Florida, and Reagan accused people, let's see, and this was at the height of him spending money on weapons and everything like this, and he's like, Reagan accused accuses armed control and military spending critics of trying to place the United States in a position of military and moral inferiority. He described the Cold War as a struggle between right and wrong, good and evil. Okay? He said his administration's efforts to ban abortion, reinstate public school prayer, and notify parents when teenage girls seek prescription birth control reflected a great spiritual awakening and a moral renewal sweeping the nation. So again, that's 1983. Okay? And then on that same day, 18 major religious leaders stepped on the political stage in Washington, condemning the president's budget and usually, but you know, when Reagan makes...
Can you imagine if something like that tried to get pushed now?
If a president made that statement today, you know, reinstate public school prayer, and that was, and that's part, and that was, I'd forgotten about the school prayer thing. I just went blank. The Regents of New York, I can't think of the court case, but basically in New York, and about that same time in the late 70s, there was a ban on public school prayer. And what this was, the state of New York had it as a part of, like, you know, Pledge of Allegiance and all this other stuff, and they said a recited prayer that basically, you know, dear God, bless our, you know, be with us this day, keep us from all this stuff. And it was a recited prayer that was said in public schools. Okay.
I did not know they ever did that.
I need to find that, but
that's wild.
Go ahead and give your guys it. Let me read this real quick. We lost Sean there, but go ahead and Travis, what's your input on this? On what Frank Zappa
Well, I got
saying?
a question for you first. You mentioned in the very beginning that you can't legislate morality, and the Frank Zappa skit there, he mentions that you should legislate. I think he says something along the lines that you should legislate morality based off of behavior, not theology. So my question, like when you said you can't legislate morality, were you referring to it as based off of religion or ideology, or based off of behavior, like he was saying?
You cannot,
because morality can be based off of what we deem as a society. Like we can agree as a society of things that we think are right or wrong, not based off religion.
When I would say legislate morality, what I am looking at, what I am thinking about, basically goes along the terms of saying, okay, we have to, you know, taking prayers out of the school. Okay, here, for example, this was New York state law. This was the prayer. Engel versus Vitale. That was the name of the court case. Almighty God, we acknowledge our dependence upon thee, and we beg thy blessing upon us, our parents, our teacher, and our country. Amen. Now, people say, well, that's not that's not a big deal. That's not a prayer. But if I was to say, okay, and I was a youth pastor for 10 years in church in Pike County, Illinois. I'm a junior high youth leader now. Okay, if I was to go to school and say, all right, so we're gonna begin school today with a prayer. Everybody bow your heads. Okay, in that sense, so the legal term that is used is called captive. The students have to be there. The students have to be at school. They're required by law to be at school. That's called a captive audience. So they have to be there. They are part of this captive audience. And as part of a captive audience, you cannot then say, okay, we're going to make you pray this prayer, whether you're atheist, agnostic, Satanist, Jehovah's Witnesses, whatever, you have to pray this prayer. Why do we have to pray this prayer? Okay. And for the longest time, people said, well, you know, things started going south for schools when they took prayer out of the schools, okay? And I correct people when they say this. Prayer was never taken out of the schools, okay? You can still pray in school. You don't believe me? Come to my school on Thursday mornings at 7:30, where we have a Fellowship of Christian Athletes meeting before school. Whenever it's not mandatory attendance, you can pray. People say, well, you can't have a Bible. You can have as many, you can bring a stack of Bibles to school. There's nothing that says that. But when I say we're going to make you pray before class, is the equivalent of saying, okay, at this point of the time we're going to make you bow to Allah, and we're going to make you, we're going to make you pray to Allah. I mean, in essence, that you're doing the same thing.
Well, yeah, is it really freedom of religion if you have a Buddhist kid praying to a God that he doesn't believe in?
Right. And I think part of that problem that people don't get is that when you try to enforce, that's why I say when you try to legislate morality, okay, it's very hard for some people to really get, because you're not speaking the Christian right. I would love to say, okay, hey, here's my beliefs. These are my beliefs. This is what I believe in. I believe that God sent Jesus Christ to die on the cross for the sins of the world, and he did so, and 3 days later he rose from the grave to give us the promise of eternal life. And I share that with as many people as I want to. That is my belief. That is my standard. Now, some atheists may say, you're a whack job. Okay? Part of the First Amendment, and people like to look at saying, okay, well, the First Amendment protects my religious rights. It does protect your religious rights, but it also protects your right not to believe. People tend to forget that. Your First Amendment, you have the right to practice religion. There's two parts to that First Amendment, though. The free practice clause, which allows for the free practice of any religion, and the establishment clause. The establishment clause basically says that government will not prefer or promote one religion over the other. In a speech to the at the time the French, it was right before the French Revolution. They had their legislative body was called the Estates Generales, which was there, and at the time there were there was the first estate, the second estate, and the third estate, made up of the poor people, the rich people, and the clergy, the people of the church. And part of the tax money in France was going towards funding the church. And Thomas Jefferson, who was the ambassador to Paris, made a speech before the French General Assembly and said, there needs to be a wall of separation between the church and state. Okay, so that, and in the 80s, I know I'm rambling here, but in the 80s, then that kind of turned into, well, we're building this wall too high between church and state. Thomas Jefferson, he wasn't an atheist, but he was what we call a deist. He believed, which is kind of an agnostic kind of thing, but he believed that there was a God and all this other stuff. And our country was founded on Christian principles, but at the same time, our founding fathers said, okay, we're on purpose going to say there's not going to be, we're going to allow for free exercise. You want to practice, practice. If you don't want to practice, don't practice. And we're not going to establish a state religion. Fast forward now, what Frank Zappa was talking about in 1986 rings true in 2023. And what has happened is we have turned, this is one of the dividing points that I think is dividing our nation, because not everybody's Christian. Okay? But what happens on one side does happen on the other. The side that represents things that I don't believe in. Okay? I don't agree with the transgender belief. I do not, I don't believe in, the use of drugs. But at the same time, as a Christian, do I target those? No, I love those people. And I think that's the part of the church that's missing the boat, in that saying, we need to, instead of condemn these people, we need to accept these people. And the only way that you get them to, you can't make them do something through legislation. You can show them through your character. That was a lot.
No, it was good though. And I think what you talked about, it's kind of something that's coming back. I think of, like, for instance, they just got rid of the Roe v. versus Wade. And people, let's go into, for example, the topic of abortion, right? Mm-hmm. Some people are for it, some people are against it. Let's say the people who are against it, right? Why are most people, and maybe I shouldn't say most people, but this is my perception, right? of people who are typically against something like abortion. What is their belief based off of? I would say, in my opinion, it's based off of religion, right? It's based off of their belief of what's in the Bible and Christianity, Christian values.
A lot, I think. A,
Am I stretching that, or would you agree with that statement?
I have, I've not met too many non-Christian pro-life advocates. Now, I'm not saying if you believe in pro-life, you're not Christian. Now, I'm not saying that. What I am saying is, I think that a lot of, to some people, it just comes straight down to science. I think, when does life begin? Okay, and I mean, you guys probably have a better grasp on this than I do. I forgot when the heartbeat is present. Is that like 3 weeks into? How far into the pregnancy is that?
I don't know what week it starts. I know we did our first ultrasound and all that at like 8 weeks,
Mm-hmm.
and there was a heartbeat already.
And what the whole thing with Roe v. Wade, and I'm on the record saying that I'm very pro-life. I am extremely pro-life. But
But is your belief with that, is it based off of science, or is the science of like when a human life starts, or is it based off of your Christian values?
both. I
Both. Okay.
I believe. Now here's the thing. When Janine and I've been candid with this before. When we had our last miscarriage, it wasn't a miscarriage. Janine had an ectopic pregnancy. Had she carried that, even, I mean, when they did the ultrasound, they was like, okay, you've got a viable pregnancy, but it's not where it's supposed to be. And then they found it in her fallopian tubes. They said, okay, we need to terminate this pregnancy now, because if we go 2 weeks longer, you'll die and the baby will die. And it was at that point that I had to look my Christian morality in the face. Okay? There's not going to be a happy ending to this. Okay? This is one of those situations where we had to make a decision that was uncomfortable. And it was and what was bad about it was, the four miscarriages that we had before were not viable pregnancies. This was a viable pregnancy. Everything, all the numbers, everything was going the right way, and we were so excited that it was going the right way. But then we get to the point where, okay, what happened? And Janine and I have had that, and this. I mean, my wife won't listen to this podcast. I know, because this is something that's a trigger for her, because when the whole Roe v. Wade thing was overturned, we talked about it. What would have happened? What would have happened had this happened to us after the Roe v. Wade thing was overturned? Would we had to go through some kind of consent process with the state? I mean, and in the meantime, my wife's health hangs in the balance, the baby's health hangs in the balance. And it was hard for us, because in our personal beliefs, we believe that, life begins at conception. But at the same time, then we have to look at the science of things and say, if we would have didn't, Janine wouldn't be with me right now, and you can't just make a religion is not a one size fits all thing for everybody. Okay, what it is and what religion is, and I don't. I'm going to make this statement, and this is going to confuse a lot of people, but I'm going to make it anyway. I don't believe in religion. I believe in relationship. Okay? Religion is something that was created by man. The relationship with God has always been something that has been eternal. From the beginning of time, God, in my belief system, God desired relationship with man. Man broke that trust when we introduced the whole idea of doing wrong, which went against what he established as his moralities. Now, it's in the nature of man to do bad things. I mean, I still remember when we first brought Bryson home, he was learning how to talk, and And he had this infinite love for cookies. And what's weird about it, he don't like cookies anymore, but he had this thing for cookies. And I would give him a cookie, and we had your proverbial cookie jar in the kitchen, right? And so I reach in the cookie jar, give him a cookie. Now, mind you, this kid's a little bit under 2 years old. We bring him home. By the time he's 3, he knows basic English. And he's like, "Daddy, can I have another cookie? Another cookie?" I'm like, "No, son. I don't want to spoil supper for you." Okay. So I go back into the living room. I'm watching TV. Well, there's this thing called sound that carries through the house. What do I hear in the kitchen? I hear the cookie jar, right? So I go in there. And I said, "What did I say?" He said, "I can't have any more cookies." He's like, "What are you doing?" I said, "What are you doing?" He said, "Getting a cookie." Okay, so it's the nature of people to do what, it's self-preservation, right? It's all about self. And the whole thing about, religious beliefs or whatever is, it is a belief. It is a relationship. It is between you and God. Asking God to be the leader of your life, to direct your path of your life based upon godly lifestyles. So when I say, and I'm sorry that this has been the long way around to get to this point, that's why I say you cannot legislate religious belief or religious values. Okay? Because as much as I say I'm going to make a law that says you cannot do abortion, okay? I hate to tell my Christian and evangelical friends out there, but if you ban it, people are going to find a way to do it. One of the reasons why they did Roe v. Wade was because at the time it was coat hanger abortions, literally coat hanger abortions. Okay? So when you try to say we're going to legislate this, we're going to make this happen, you cannot, because you're interfering with people's First Amendment rights of free choice, period, of what they want to believe in. You cannot make somebody believe what you believe.
That was, dude, you got to clip that. I had like chills when you like started that. Like, and I'm not even like a super religious guy, but the way you went into that was like awesome. Got to clip that. But not to make this solely about like abortion, but like even like let's even go into like say gay marriage, for example, which 20 years ago was a very controversial thing. And a lot of like it goes kind of the same thing. Like a lot of the pushback to gay marriage was, and again, my perception was based off of religious belief that was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't the belief that it was someone's freedom to do so.
Well,
But and then, again, like you said, you have the right to practice a religion, but you also have the right to not follow a religion. So if somebody, say, doesn't follow Christianity, it doesn't have the Christian values per se, and they don't see gay marriage as a problem, are they in the wrong for doing that because somebody who has a different belief thinks that they're wrong?
so
And that
right.
I think that's what Frank Zappa was ultimately getting at, not just that issue, but that idea.
That's exactly what Frank Zappa was.
Are we truly a free society if we are basing rules, regulations based off a religion that doesn't truly represent all the people in this country?
Right.
And
right. That's exactly. And
yeah,
that's exactly. By the way, our friend Kyle McGuire came on and said 6 weeks is when heartbeat begins. Thank you, Kyle, for that.
Thanks for chiming in there.
And again, so you bring up another issue. So, I mean, again, gay marriage is something that I believe that, again, when in phrasing this, people say, okay, traditional marriage. I believe in traditional marriage. I'm sorry, I don't believe in same-sex marriage. But when you use that term traditional marriage, what is that tradition based upon? What do you?
It's based upon a Christianity belief.
No, I mean,
Adam and Eve, man and woman.
I mean, because what's the tradition? The tradition has been since you can trace way back to wherever,
Like, how does the Bible say it? Like, you will be with one.
Yeah,
one man will be with one woman for eternity, and you shall not.
Right, a man will leave. A man will leave his mother and father and cleave to one woman. You see that in the book of Genesis.
Mm-hmm.
And as much and here's the thing. I was one of those people. And I still am one of those people who, if you're going to get married to somebody, fine, get married to someone. I posted this, and I have to look it up real quick. But I posted this meme about, I forgot how many weeks it was, a couple of weeks ago. But I had posted this meme on my Facebook story. And I think this is Christianity in a nutshell is how some people should look at, how we as Christians should address people, and views that are, because what happens is, and this is the thing that angers me the most, people call us well, you need to know how to be, you're intolerant, you're a bigot, you're this, you're that. It's not about any of that. And I'm still scrolling down here to find this, but I put this meme up, and I got some people who were like, I don't know. But you have the freedom to choose whatever you want to choose. Okay. You can choose to be, you can choose to be gay. You can choose to do drugs. You can choose to do whatever. Okay. Number one, I'm still gonna love that person as they are, because nothing a person, short of you killing, bringing harm to my family, or bringing harm to me or my property or anything like that, you're not going to do anything that really changes how I think about you. I tell my kids that I told you guys that when you were my students. Nothing is going to make me say, I think that here it is. So this was a post that I put. Secular person, I want to do X, and you fill in the blank for whatever. Okay? The Christian says you're free to do it, but you think X is wrong. And Christian says yes. Because you want to control me? Christian, no, you're free to do whatever you wish, but you think X is wrong. Yes, but only because I want what's best for you. But I want to do X. Okay, you're free to do it. But I want you to say that X is good. I can't say that. Secular person, why are you a hateful, intolerant bigot? Okay? And there's
there's a line there, right?
Yeah.
And that's an issue. And you can't just we can agree to disagree in this country, right?
Right.
And that's
where
you can't force people to agree with your beliefs. And that goes on both sides.
Right.
It goes on both sides of the spectrum, the anti-religious and religious. But that's what makes this country what it is, and that's how it.
And we've lost that though, because, and this is why I said we had a knee jerk reaction in 2016. Okay, and and I'm not going to go down the whole Trump path and everything else. There's a lot of similarity between 1980 and 2016. There's a ton of issues there. Okay, there were a lot of in the Carter presidency. You had Nixon when he was impeached. You had Gerald Ford, who took over, who was an idiot. Gerald Ford was a straight up idiot. Okay, so it's like you had this idiot running against Jimmy Carter. Okay. And because Gerald Ford pardoned Nixon, you could have put Mickey Mouse in there, and the people would have voted for Mickey Mouse over Gerald Ford. So Carter comes in and starts, kind of loosening up the reins a little bit, more state control over certain issues. And so then 1980 comes along, and it's this knee-jerk reaction because you had Roe v. Wade, because you had the Engel versus Vitale prayer case. And so the values of America are being shaken. And so we need to react. And so you have this influx of Reagan. Okay. Fast forward to 2016. What do we had? We had 2 terms of Barack Obama. We had this push for Obamacare. We had all of this socialized this, and the government's going to, and you add the advent of Facebook and all this other stuff. People come in and you start getting all they're going to take away our guns. They're going to take our religious freedoms away. They're attacking this. They're attacking that. Now, there was some stuff to that. I didn't agree with the case. I believe it was out in Connecticut where the baker who refused to make a wedding cake for a gay marriage.
Colorado.
Was it Colorado? I knew it was C, but it was. But And so the guy gets sued, and the gay couple wins. Okay.
And you want to know? I don't. Let me just put a footnote in that, because I want to circle back to that before we leave. Because I had a class that literally revolved around that case, and it actually gets very interesting with other things that were allowed to happen while that person was being sued. So I'll come back to that, but finish.
No, so what my point was with that, that's part of saying, I mean, that's the two-way street. That's the two-way street. I cannot force my views on you, but you can't force your views upon me. You know, if somebody comes and asks me, I'm an ordained minister. Okay, I'm an ordained minister. If somebody came to me and said, we'd like you to perform our ceremony, I'm going to respectfully decline. I'm happy for you, you're getting married, but I'm going to decline because why? That's in conflict with my views. Somebody asked me to DJ. I've been DJing for 20 years. Somebody comes and asks me, can you DJ our gay wedding? I'm gonna respectfully refuse. Why? Because it's in conflict with my views. Now anything else, fine, but that's my personal viewpoint. Do I offer a service? Yes, I offer a service that I can perform weddings. I offer a service that I DJ weddings. Okay? But also, as part of my constitutional rights, I reserve the right to refuse service. Now, people are saying, "Well, that's just the same thing as, black discrimination." I don't see it that way. I want what's.
Yeah, I think there's a difference there.
There is a
I would
difference.
agree with you.
People liken the two together, but the shoe has to be worn on both.
Your decision is based off of belief, not a physical attribute.
It's not I'm not being bigoted. I'm holding to my beliefs. Now, when I hold
exactly, that's what I mean. You're not. Yeah, it's not
right.
Yeah.
I think people and a lot of but again, I'll bring up this point again. The same thing happens the other way. Because if somebody doesn't go to a Christian belief or hold something that may not be a Christian belief, even within the Christian church. Even within the church, there are people who believe that women should have the right to choose. Okay, so now do I damn that person because they believe in abortion or they support abortion? It shouldn't matter, because religion isn't about rules. That's why I said earlier, it's about the relationship that you have with God, with Jesus Christ. People say, well, am I going to go to hell because I do this, or this, or this? I tell people, sin is a sin, is a sin, is a sin, is a sin. There's no big sin. There's no small sin. Me lying or cheating on my taxes is just the same kind of sin as, say, what we would consider homosexuality or murder or thief. Sin is sin. God doesn't have a checklist where he goes in and says, okay, we can't have this, 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 or this. Okay? And to go with what Frank Zappa was saying, okay? And I've told people this 1,000 times, and I've made more Christians mad when I say this, but I'll say it again. Jesus did not come into Jerusalem saying, let's make Jerusalem great again. He did not. Really? I mean, who did he do? What did Jesus do? Pardon my French, but Jesus pissed off the powers that be, the religious rulers, the Romans. He made a lot of people mad. He wasn't there he was there to say, what is it about? It's about making relationships. It's about relationship between me and you. Love your neighbor, he said, a new command I give to you. It says in the scripture, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, strength. The second is the same. Love your neighbor as yourself. And a lot of Christians today have wiped that off to the side and said, you know what? I'm going to love the Lord my God with all my strength, soul, blah, 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 blah. But if my neighbor's doing something that's contrary to what I believe, well, man, we're going to fight against him tooth and nail. And sad to say, and I shared this with our group, and I'm not going to go into this, but there was an article this week that appeared in, I shared that with you guys earlier in the week. I forgot where that article appeared at. But it said that there's this movement within, and one of the major religions in America is the Southern Baptist Convention. There's a movement within the Southern Baptist Convention, and it's a far right radical move that's basically saying Jesus was weak and he was liberal. Why? Because
Oh yeah, you told me. Yeah, you sent that. I forgot all about that.
and to me that's that. I mean, people get to that point where they're saying, okay, I'm not about. We got to push our agenda, and the agenda was, you know, that the agenda that Jesus had wasn't about making Jerusalem. I joked about it, but it wasn't about making Jerusalem great again. It was about making relationships, loving others, loving people, and when you do that, that's what draws people to the faith. What has scared people away from Christianity in the last 30 years is how the church has treated people who are in the sin. You know, you're not not gonna get. But I want to say this. I want to say this with a caveat. We don't condone the sin. We love the sinner. We hate the sin. We want the sinner to come in. We want that person to come in. What Frank, and this, just to bring this first full circle, what Frank Zappa was saying is when you impose a theocracy fascist state, you're creating a state that's based upon something that Jesus never intended. God never intended. He wants us to. God wants people to stand for our values. He wants me to stand for my faith, and he wants. I mean, if anybody was to ask either one of you guys, tell me what Andy Van Beber believes, I hope that you guys could define about me who I am based upon how I act towards you guys, toward anybody. That's what I want my legacy to be. I don't care about. I want people to know that I loved them, regardless of who they were, what they believed in, what they did in their, because I never look at myself as being perfect ever. And for me to cast the first stone, I'm not going to judge somebody. Now, I am going to say, if you say, well, you're not judging me, but what I'm saying is you have the right to do whatever you want to do. Like I read in that quote a while ago. I'm not going to condone it though. So
That's fair.
Sean, what were you going to come around? You said you were going to come back around to something and say it earlier. I'm sorry, I rambled on.
Yeah, so I was trying to kind of pull it up, but I don't want to like misspeak and be wrong. But during that same time that they were dealing with that individual being sued for denying the same-sex couple a cake. That same, I think it was like the Colorado Civil Community Committee or something like that was like the initial group that ruled in favor of the same-sex couple. Sued him, for saying like he was practicing his First Amendment right. They had allowed a different bakery to deny a Christian man who wanted a pro-life cake made. So they had told the guy who said, no, this goes against my religion, I don't want to do it. They had said that he had done that unlawfully. Then obviously, the Supreme Court overturned it. But literally during that same period of time had granted a different baker permission, saying that it was okay that they denied someone who wanted a pro-life cake to be made. Like that, same committee, same group of people. It was a very, I was trying to pull it up, but if you quite literally just Google like that period of time, the only thing that hits on is the original case. So I'm gonna try to see if I can go back. But yeah, I took a business class, and that was like a huge point of that class. It was a business ethics class. We were going over those things, and it was like, oh, and by the way, like what doesn't get talked about is during that entire time they said that it was totally cool if you like denied religious people cake. It was religious people couldn't deny you cake.
Yeah, I took when I took my master's degree. One of the best classes that I ever took was basically educational law and religion. Educational law and religion. One of the best classes I ever took. I got one of the most, and I took it with a couple of like super conservative Christians who flat out hated that class, and they couldn't believe. And by the way, my my master's is through Southwest Baptist University. Okay, so and so, and the guy who taught the class was also a part-time pastor, and so when he gave this thing out, I mean, how I think that we really. I'm never going to say I'm going to that the Christians, United States Christians, we don't condone sin. We call we have, and again, Travis, it goes back to what you said. The whole agreeing to disagree. Okay, you call it sin, I call it sin. They call it a way of life. Okay, fine. We're not going to convince people otherwise. I'm not going to convince people to say, I think homosexuality is a sin. I also believe that lying and overeating is a sin, of which I am a sinner as well. Okay? What I am going to say is, what I do tell people is, because people say, well, Christians are a bunch of hypocrites and blah, blah, blah. Yes, we are. I mean, you don't go, it's like, say, I don't go to church because churches are full of hypocrites. Okay? It's like saying, I don't want to go to a gym because gyms are full of fat people. Okay? You're going to have people who aren't perfect in a place where they need to get help, is what I'm saying. And,
For sure. 100%.
And this whole idea of churches are not to be country clubs. I heard one of the wisest, the guy who married Janina and I, he made a statement. This has been over 20 years ago when he made this. He said, churches should not be seen as a country club. They should be seen as an intensive care unit of a hospital. Because people who are there, everybody there is in intense need of care. Okay, we are all on the same playing field. When I say this, all of America, all of the world is on the same playing field. When I say that we're all destined for the same thing. This does not reflect all the belief of the voice of reason. So there's my disclaimer. But the whole thing is, we are all destined for a place in hell. That's why, and this is why Christians believe this is why Jesus came. This is why Jesus came, so we don't have to go to a place called hell. But it comes through a development, not of religion, but of relationship with Jesus Christ and saying, I ask for forgiveness of my sins. I turn the way I live my life, and I move in a new direction. That's what it's about. It's not about changing the views and the beliefs of a country or forcing your views on somebody else. It's about the relationship that I seek for everybody else to have. And if you want to debate me on that, anybody can want to leave me a comment about that. You can leave me a comment about that. I don't know what I'm going to clip this week to put on the TikTok, but there you go. That's my short and long of it.
And in the wise words of Ricky, fucking amen.
Hell yeah.
Dear baby,
Yeah.
I kind of like the little baby, the version of the baby Jesus that's all sweet and cuddly and.
I saw a clip bit. I know we're at the point where we're wrapping things up, but I saw a clip bit of kind of like reminded me a lot of some of like the small churches that I've kind of seen growing up, and not all small churches, but some of the ones where it's holier than thou kind of tight knit, where it was this pastor from Louisiana, not Louisiana, Missouri, but Louisiana, the state. Mm-hmm. No joke. He is bragging to his congregation about how he has the most expensive house of any pastor in the United States. And he talks about all of his cars and how he's like legit seems to be like he's rubbing it in his congregation's face, but he's got these guys so brainwashed that they are applauding him, that they are like, oh yes, like we give our pastor a house with 24 bedrooms, and like it was one of the weirdest things I've seen.
That's enough.
What's his name?
Yeah,
Joel
definitely
Osteen?
a wolf. It was probably Joel Osteen's dad. They're definitely just a different wolf. Sheep's clothing.
That's another show in and of itself. This whole thing about what they call, and that's a movement that's called the prosperity gospel, and the whole thing about that whole thing that's so. I mean, Jesus didn't roll up in a chariot and 25 horses. I mean Joel Osteen stickens me. I'm sorry, but he's one of those Joel Osteen, Joy. A lot of those. Ugh. So anyway,
You got a problem with going to a church in a basketball stadium? What's your problem?
yeah.
Yeah. Well, and then not open it up, during flooding and anywho.
Right.
But no, gentlemen, it was as always great to talk to you guys. This one was a fun one.
Yep.
And I'm really excited about the next one. How were the for our listeners? Did the socials grow? Did we have kind of some good interaction?
We did this week. We kind of
comments too.
We had some. It was kind of hard last week to find a. So one of the things I put on our TikTok this week was your implication of how to solve the whole Michael Orr thing was to make The Blind Side 2, and we got quite a few laughs out of that. So, solving the problem, Blind Side 2, we're doing it. So, thank you for everybody who commented. We had a lot of views, a lot of laughs on that this week. We're maintaining. Our fan base we have crossed the 100 people fan base on TikTok finally. We're still averaging around 1,500, 2,000 views. Last week's show had 196 views throughout, 136 views throughout the week just off of Facebook. Thank you guys for everything that you guys, we're so confident. A lot of it is because you guys are sharing. It's you guys. So thank you so much.
Always. Thank you. And I can't wait until we talk next week.
Thank you for listening to the Voice of Reason podcast. Be sure to check out our other content on Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok.